All right, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. So, today I'm going to talk to you about this word over here called critical analysis process. So, let's break that down. I hope it's a little bit pixelated. I do realize that. So, it's critical analysis process, right? So, let's think about that. Well, a process is the same as a method, and a method is just something that you do, right? So it's an easy way to do it. Here we go. So this is a method, something you can reproduce or do the same thing. Analysis is when you break it apart. So you want to see how something works, then you break it apart, right? If my car doesn't drive, then I bring it to the garage, and then they will look and take my engine apart, and they slowly, using a method, try to find out what is wrong with it, right? And critical is just basically that you think about it, right? That you try and critique or find out how something works. Well, basically, there's a method for it, and it looks like this, right? It is something that you do in several steps. You can do it in one, two, three, four different steps. Now, most of the time, people when we're looking after, I'm looking after the cat from my uncle and aunt, and I just brought the cat upstairs because the cat wants to sit on my lap and then wants to climb everywhere. And the cat is really old, and it scratches me and it bites me. But now it wants to sit on my lap, and that's okay. So if you hear some purring stuff, then you know it's a cat. If you hear me say ow, that means the cat has bitten me, okay? Just so you know. Okay, so there is different steps to this process, right? There is an initial reaction, which is the first step. Then there is analysis and interpretation, which is the second step. Then there's consideration of cultural context, which is the third step. And then the fourth step is expression of aesthetic judgment. Now, you are learning how to look at art. So you're gonna do all these steps, right? Now, most people, when they look at art, they basically, when they have no training in art, they are able to do this and then immediately come to here, right? But they skip these things, right? Most people, when they see an artwork, for example, I'll just show you a random artwork over here, like this one, for example, then they say, yeah, I don't like it. I don't think it's interesting. It's very simple, bleh, right? And that's it. And then they have no clue of what it is about or how it's made, right? So you guys are going to look at something a little bit better because you guys know, for example, what more things you'll find out. I'll go over it, right? So we break this process of looking at an artwork up into four different steps, right? Now, you can basically use this process for anything that you can lay your eyes on, right? If you're interested, for example, in cars, you also use this process because you can use different steps to find out how something is made, right? For example, when I look at this car here, look, then what would be my first impression, for example, right? So you use this process for basically anything that you can take a look at, right? So for example, I can say, well, this is an old car, you know, and then I guess this is based off of this old car. Somebody painted this to look a little bit more new and interesting, right? And this is like the same, see? The top one is the one from 1979, right? And then the one underneath is 2020. It's basically similar in concept, right? So they're trying to make an old car into new. and it looks really cool here on this picture, as you can see, right? I really like it. I think it's super cool. It's a hybrid car, I think, or it's completely electric. It's like Honda N74 Nighthawk. It's super cool. But then this is what it looks like in real life, right? So the light doesn't really do it any justice. See, like if you give it some interesting light, it looks so cool. But if you put it in the outside world and it's a gray, rainy day, it does not look so cool at all. It looks a little bit plasticky, right? So all important things. Now, I can describe all these things and explain all these things because I understand about the elements and design principles, right? So for example, I know this car looks really fast now, but if I were to change some things about it, look, I can just paint on top of it a little bit and I can create something that looks slightly different, right? So for example, this look more like a family car, you know, or like something you can transport a lot of things in. So you can do that by thinking about things that belong to certain things, right? So the person who made this just painted a little bit on top of this car, and then I also painted a little bit on top of this car, but I didn't spend a lot of time on it, right? Okay, so this process is really important because it will help you understand uh, how an artwork or something that you look at is created, how it works, right? And I am very happy that I can teach you how to use this because it is super useful, right? So, the initial reaction is the first step. Well, that is the first step, but officially it is the second step because what should you always try and do first, right? Well, first you should try and answer these questions over here because that's going to give you a lot of information, right? So, for example, I know, and I'll write it down for you, this artwork is made by somebody named Banksy. I don't know if you ever heard of this person. I know it's made in like 2000 and I don't know exactly, but I'm just going to say 2010. I know the artwork's title is Sunflowers from a Petrol Station. A petrol station is English way, British way of saying gas station, right? Where you can fill up your car. Okay, then the medium and materials is what it is made out of. And in this case, I think it is oil paint, and it is on canvas. Sometimes people also say like maybe it's like 50 by whatever 70 centimeters. That is giving you an idea of the size, right? Now, it's very important that you know who made it. It's important to know what year it's made. It's important to know what the title is because it gives you information, right? It will give you information about the artwork that you are looking at or the design, right? So then you go to the first one, initial reaction. So you're also going to get at the end of my course basically an exam where you're going to get an artwork. Like I'll give you any random artwork that I want, and then I'll put it on top of the page, and then underneath I put exactly this. I say put the picture like let's say over here, right? And then I give you the title and those things, and then you're going to have to do it. It looks exactly the same as this, these different steps about the artwork, right? So step number one then is initial reaction. So what do you do there? Well, basically it is your first impression or your first reaction when you see the artwork. Super simple. Do you like the artwork? Do you not like the artwork? Do you have any questions about it? You just write in 5 sentences. This is different for everybody, right? For example, I like this artwork. I really don't like this artwork, but now that I understand it, I like it, right? So I can say, for example, I would say, I don't like this artwork. Um, I do not understand why somebody would paint some broken flowers. What is the point, right? I think it's a little bit childish. It doesn't really work. I don't think the colors are really working well together. I don't really like it, right? That is what I would say, for example. I don't think this blue works really nice with the rest of the painting, right? That is my opinion. Okay, simple. Everybody's first impression or initial reaction is going to be different, right? And it is easy. Just write down, roughly answer these questions, and there you got 10 marks, right? Out of 100. Simple. So the next step is the analysis and interpretation, and this is really the most important part, really, right? Because what I want you to do here is the following thing. I say here, it's 60% of your mark, right? Very important. So I write here, explain a minimum of 9, right? 9 of the elements and design principles. So what I want you to do is I want you to explain what elements and design principles are used in the artwork. Also explain how they are used. Only write about the ones that are used, right? Now I say 9, but I want you to do as many as you can, right? So for example, right, what you can do is very simple. You get exactly the same information on your test, right, and on your practice one too. So color, I'm looking at color first. I would just do it like this, just make your life easy. Color, what can I say about the color? Well, I have mainly yellows, and they are values. So I can say values of yellow, right? And then they are warm. The colors are warm, except the green and blue. Done. Then I go to the next one. The next one is form. Well, in this case, this is not a three-dimensional artwork, so I can say I don't need to talk about form. I can skip that one, right? Then line. Are there lines in this artwork? Yes. I can say, yeah, line. There are blue lines. And they are messy. They're not very clear. See, they're very bumpy. Like here, it really bumps. It's like really not nice, right? They're bumpy, like they make no sense, right? Here it's thick, and then here's like super thin. It's very yuck. It's not nice. The lines are not nice at all, right? So then I've talked about line. Then I go to shape, right? So then I can say, well, what type of shapes do I have here? Well, I have in this case, for shape, I can say there is organic flowers, flowers, and I can say geometrical face, right? That is there. Then I go to space. How is the space created in this artwork, right? This is why it's so important that you understand all the elements and design principles, because it's going to explain things, right? Okay, so in this case, the only way he really creates space is by overlapping, right? The values that he's trying to do to create a space don't really work, because he's also at the same point, you know, like here. If this was like a value painting, then this line shouldn't be here, right? Because that is like breaking the idea of the values, see? So if you were to get rid of these like lines, then you could say, yeah, he creates like different values in order to show you the thing, but that's not what's happening. See, there's lines on the outside. So that is what I would say for that one. So overlapping is basically how he creates space, right? Then I go to texture. In this case, can you see things are different materials? Can you tell me, for example, what material the pot is made out of? Well, you can say probably is clay, but did he put a lot of time and energy in showing you what different materials are? No, not at all, right? However, in this case, I can say, well, there is texture because the paint is thick. Paint is bumpy, so it's real texture. There's a lot of texture in this paint. See, it's like slapped up. It's like really big bumps everywhere, right? Yep, it's like really fat. So the paint is really textured, like it's not nice and smooth. Okay, then I go to value. Well, this is not a black and white artwork, so I can skip. See, so I've talked about color, lines, space, and texture for my elements, right? So then I'm going to move on to the next ones. So try and make this a little bit smaller. Whoops. So those are these ones. Hoppa. Okay. Can we still read this? Somewhat. Okay. Then next ones. The first one is balance, and I put in brackets composition. Super important. You should always talk about the composition. If you're not talking about the composition, you are doing something wrong, right? Okay, what composition is this? Let's find out. This is the center. Whoopa. Okay, so is this symmetrical or is this asymmetrical? I think it is asymmetrical. Look, it tried to be a little bit of a triangle, but it isn't, right? I think it's a little bit to the right. So I would say for balance, I would say is an asymmetrical composition. Cool. Then I would say contrast. Well, let's say, is there a contrast here? Yes, I would say there is a contrast. The contrast is as followed. Is this. The color is happy. Colors are happy. But the opposite is the flower is dying. That is really what is happening here. So I have something happy and I have something dying, which is quite opposite, right? So I think that is important for this painting, right? Okay. Then I go to emphasis. Super simple. What is the emphasis on? Emphasis. The emphasis is on, of course, the flowers and the pot or face, right? There's really nothing else for me to look at, right? So that is simple. Then harmony. Does everything work well together? Well, in this case, for harmony, I'm gonna say no. The blue doesn't fit. I don't like this blue color. I don't think this blue color works at all. I think this blue color should be like, I guess, a little bit more bright. Might feel a little bit nicer. Personally, make it all feel a little bit nicer. Here, bank. See, I think that look a little bit more nice, personally, right? Nicer. See? So harmony, in my case, I say no, right? I don't think so. Then, moving on to the next one. Whoops. this guy here. So it's nicer with the light blue, because light blue and orange give a nicer complementary color contrast, right? That was a super simple fix. Okay, then movement. Does it look like things are moving in here? I don't see so, so I'm gonna skip movement. Done. Proportion have to do with size. Does everything feel like it's the right size over here? I think so, right? So in that case, do I really need to like specifically talk about it for a long time? No, not really, right? Rhythm? Nah. Repetition? Sure. Repetition, yeah. Repetition in the leaves on the table, and also in the colors. So I would say yes, leaves and colors, right? Then unity. Unity is same as harmony, so I will just skip that one, right? Just write about either this one or this one, right? It doesn't matter. So I'm gonna skip that one too. Then for variety, are there a lot of different things in this artwork? No, not really, right? So basically I've written about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in this case, right? That is good. So those were the only ones really that were of any importance, right? So that is what I want you to do for step number 2. Analysis and interpretation, right? I just showed you how to do it. Explain what and how, right? Only write about the ones that I used. That's what we did, right? Now, if I were to look now at my list over here, then what can I see? What is something that really stands out for this painting? Well, for me, when I'm looking at this, it's not really about colors. Well, it's a little bit about colors because they are a little bit warm, right? So I got some warm colors here. So then line, no, not really important. Shape, not really important. Overlapping, not really important. Texture, not really super important. The composition is very important because it is a little bit off balance, so it gives a little bit of tension, right? And then the contrast, oh, that really stands out for me in this painting, right? Because there's a contrast between happy and dying, right? Cool. So those are the elements and design principles that for this artwork, if you ask me, are the most important, and usually that is going to give you a good idea of what the artwork is about, and that is what you're going to talk about at number 3, right? So consideration, where you take into account, right? Take what? Take culture. Do you know what culture is? Into account. When you think about what it means, right? So you're thinking about why somebody make this, right? What is the purpose of the artwork, right? Why is the artwork made? So explain. This is 20 marks. It's important, right? You can always find it by finding out which elements, design principles are most important, right? It's gonna give you an idea. Why is it created? Can you tell anything about the time period it is from, right? Sometimes when an artwork is old, you can think about it because you know, because it's gonna tell you here, right? How old is it? 2010, so it's quite new, right? So you can think a little bit about what people were thinking about in the specific year, right? Maybe it's a specific type of art that you have seen before, right? So those are information that you can give. Okay, so what is the purpose of this artwork? Well, I think the purpose of this artwork, I think, and this is personal, can be different for everybody, right? Like the elements and design principles should be the same for everybody, number 2. But number 3, everybody can sort of give their own interpretation, right? It should be sort of relatively close to each other, but not exactly the same, right? So here we go. So I think this artwork is a comment on new society. So I say this is a comment on new or current, or can say contemporary, that sounds way more fancy. Contemporary society. Because, why do I think this? Well, the title says petrol, sunflowers from a gas station. Okay, well, if you really want to buy some nice flowers, do you go to a gas station to buy some flowers? Probably not, right? So, basically, if you do not really care about flowers, but you still have to buy a present, then you go to the gas station to buy some flowers, right? That is what I think. So I will say people don't care about flowers. They have no time nor interest. That's basically repeating. That's what I would say, right? Nobody cares. That is what I think this artwork is about, right? Okay. So I know exactly what this artwork is about, and I'm gonna show you, right? Later. So I only have like 2 sentences, but that's okay for now, right? I want to give you the whole information, but then I give it away, so I'm not, right? Okay. Now, does this look like anything I've seen in the past? Yeah, I can say, and I know this. The painting looks like it was painted in 1870-ish. No, actually no, in like the 1900s. Yeah, that's what I think it looks like, right? I can also say in this time people liked to paint nice flowers, right? That's what I would write down, for example. Okay, so I have answered those 2 things. Well, then the last thing is the easiest thing to do, right? So what does that mean? Well, that's number 4 here, look. It's called expression of aesthetic judgment. Well, expression is just what you think. Aesthetic is what it looks like. Here. Does it look nice? Does it look not nice? And judgment is just say, is it good or is it bad? Right? Okay. So 8 sentences, 10 marks, small part, simple. Everybody can do this. Is this a good or a bad artwork, and why? Are there things that could be done better? Those are the things you should answer, right? So in this case, I would say the artwork is a bit boring. I don't really like it. Right? What could be done better? I think changing the blue, well, can't write changing at the moment, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit dyslexic. The blue would make it more interesting, right? So those are things that I would write, right? I can also say maybe There's a lot of things that could be done better, but I'm just gonna stop it right there, right? Okay, so that is what my analysis would look like, right? So that is what I would want you to do whenever you see this uh, system, right? Now, I'm gonna show you the real painting, because this painting is a copy of this painting. Look. Basically, he's trying to paint this painting, and it is a commentary, because this painting on the bottom is a very famous painting by Vincent van Gogh, right? Or Van Gogh, that's his real name. And he paints these sunflowers. And these sunflowers that he paints are really pretty. They are very expensive and they're very nice. So basically, in this case, he is saying a couple of different things. He's saying nobody cares about flowers these days. They just buy them at the petrol station. And also, you know, nobody really truly cares about art anymore. He says, I think the dream of art and time and nature is all dead by now, right? That is what he's trying to do, right? Now, if we were to directly compare these paintings over here, I'll put them next to each other, you can see that the quality of painting is really not the same, right? The painting on the left is way more interesting because it have like way more different colors built up, different values in the yellow, which makes it way more interesting. I really like the painting on the left a lot. In comparison, the painting on the right is very, low quality, right? That is what I think. So this system is super handy, super useful to understand anything that you look at, right? And also you can use it to learn how something is made. And I'm going to give you a super quick demonstration of that, how to do that, because it always works the same, right? For example, let's say you want to learn a specific style, right? Here, look. These are some really cool Japanese prints, right? I love Japanese prints. They are very interesting to me. I think they're very cool. Look, these are very famous one, obviously. I have a lot of books at my house with these really cool prints in it. I really like them. They're all woodcut prints, right? So this is the style, right? Here. It's a very nice style, see? And this is like brushwork, really nice, right? I very much like this stuff. Okay, so keep these things in mind, right? So for example, if I wanted to learn about this style, the thing that I would do is I would try and analyze it a little bit, right? So in that case, the step that is most handy for me to do to learn how somebody makes something is to look at step number 2, right? So if I were to look at the elements and design principles, I can learn how this stuff is made, right? So let me just super quickly copy and paste them so we can super quickly do this, right? It is so useful. It really is. Here, let's do a rectangle. Let's copy and paste this super quickly. Hi, Angel. The cat's name is Angel, and it's true most of the time, but sometimes she is not so nice. Okay, here we go. So these are the paintings or the prints that I'm looking at, right? So for example, if I were to look at this quickly, I'll just do a random one over here, maybe, look. Then I can look at the colors, right? So there are specific type of colors that they use, right? There's different type of colors, and if I want to create something similar, I have to keep these type of color palettes. I need to keep that a little bit in check, right? Because if I start to use colors that are different, then it doesn't really work, right? then I don't have to talk about form. I don't really have to analyze that because it's flat, but I can look at the lines. So if I'm looking at the lines, what type of lines do they use, right? Are they using thick lines? Are they using thin lines? Are they using line weight? What type of lines? Well, I find that a lot of times they have these like really hooky lines, right? There's lots of hooky lines in there, right? So I can learn all these things, right? I can learn how they draw the feet, how they draw the bodies, right? So I can learn also about proportion, which is in here, right? Proportion, for example, is something important for this, right? Then how they create the space is important. The texture, right? There's always these like cool like patterns on the clothes, but they just continue, right? I find this always very interesting because the patterns continue even though there is folds in the clothes. I don't care. Look, there's a fold right here, but even though there's a fold, the pattern doesn't stop, right? If you wanted to really show that it like is folding, for example, then you would probably move it a little bit over, right? You say, okay, well, if this stuff is folding, then you probably want to you probably want to make sure that by moving it a little bit up and down, that you can suggest that it is really going in a fold, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you can learn by looking at the elements and design principles, right? So, very important. Good. Okay. So keep these pictures that we see over here in the back of your mind, right? Because now I'm going to show you these pictures. Look, hoppa. So these are all pictures that are drawn to represent the same style, right? These are all ideas, right? Now, if I look at the first one over here, then I can say, okay, I like it a lot. I think the background really works. I think the colors really work, but the amount of detail is too much, right? There's too much lines. Now, there are too many lines because traditionally these drawings are drawn and then they are cut out of a piece of wood, and then after that they're gonna get printed, right? So this one is breaking the style. It have a lot of the elements of the style, but the line work isn't proper, right? Okay, the colors are nice. This one, yeah, this has nothing to do with the style, right? None of these colors or lines, none of it really fits. Then if I'm looking at this drawing, it's a really nice drawing. It's using elements that are sort of samurai elements, right? But that is where it stops. Other than that, it doesn't really fit the style of the prints, right? Then, if I go to this one really fits the style of the print, right? The line work is similar. I think the only thing that is not really similar in here is the use of color. These prints are usually very old, so they're a little bit washed out. Over time, they lose a little bit their shine, right? They like become a little bit more dull. And because these ones are new, the colors are too bright. But other than that, it's very similar to the style. Same here, right? It's very nice. Then if we go to this one is also pretty similar, but the line work is good. The colors are also pretty good, but it's somehow missing some elements. What I think this one is missing mostly is one of these gradations, because often these prints have like some nice gradation where you have like it goes from dark to light in the bottom, right? There's usually like some dark that goes down, right? And also it have a little bit of a rough paper texture, and that is what is missing in this print over here. Look, it doesn't have that. If this had like a nice transition from dark to light, what he's doing in here, I think if that was happening to the background a little bit, it would look a little bit more similar to the style, right? Okay. This one is got good line work, but the same problem with the colors, right? This one is, these are all new, is interesting. This one is giving you a good contrast because it's giving you Captain America and whatever this guy's name is, Iron Man, right? In the same style, but this is style-wise, the lines are pretty good, but it's also missing color work. It's missing color work. It's not so dreamy like this, right? And I think, yeah, it's just not quite there, right? And the background color doesn't really work either, right? It's too greeny, right? So if you want to learn how to do something, you have to look at the elements and design principles because it's going to teach you what it should be. You can really understand anything art related or image related by using this process. It's an extremely powerful tool, right? But you can only do it once you have understanding of what these words mean, right? And that is really what I'm trying to teach you. That's really the most important thing. If you understand these words, you're able to communicate and you can explain why something is working or why something is not working. When I make something, I look at these things and I think, okay, well, it's sort of working. What do I need to do to make it better? Oh, I understand. I need to add a little bit more contrast, or I need to make the things in the background a little bit more soft and blue. Or maybe, oh, if I put like a little bit of a warm color here, then the emphasis will go to this area, right? So that really is it. And in total, we only have one, two. Let's see. One. Oh, cancel. Color is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 words. And a couple of them are even the same, right? Unity and harmony. So if you know those words, you can talk about any piece of art ever, right? So for your assignment, I'm going to give you a paper like this, right? And I'm going to put a picture here in the top for you. So I'll just like pick like a picture and then I can put it in the top. Oh, can I move this? I think so. It's gonna look like this, right? Put a picture here and then I say, okay, write the critical analysis process about the picture that I give you, and that is what I would like you to do. Okay, good luck and look forward to reading your analysis. Okay, thank you. See you next time.